All right, and welcome to another episode of the Strength and Movement Podcast. We've been on a hiatus for about 3 months. Naiwan yung recording equipment namin inside our podium branch of Kinetics Lab. So we weren't able to do any sort of recording. And of course, hindi kami pwede magkita-kita and medyo hindi pa kami ganun kagamay. And as you would notice with this episode, first time namin mag-Zoom episode. So we have today another guest. Actually, we have two guests. We have Luis Arrieta, who's actually one of the sales
director.
Hello, everyone.
Director from Kinetics Lab, and hello, our main guest, the more important guest, we have Sir James Lactao.
Good afternoon, Sir James.
Sir James.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for indulging our invitation. Would you like to tell our audience a little more something about yourself, your credentials, and your background?
Okay. So thank you very much for this invitation. I'm James Lactao. I'm working as a guidance counselor at the University of Asia and the Pacific. And I've been practicing as a guidance counselor for 9 years. And I'm also currently taking my PhD in educational psychology at the University of the Philippines in Diliman. I'm currently working on my dissertation. So I'm writing my dissertation as of this moment. And mental health has been one of the things that mental health practitioners like guidance counselors have been focusing on, especially lately when the inevitable lockdown that we have to stay inside. And
yes.
That one has caused a lot of I would say stress, anxiety, and fear among a lot of people, and that's brought about a lot of we would say mental health problems. No? So thank you for inviting me over.
All right. So this episode, we thought of actually having our first episode back. Instead of our usual fitness-related episode, we wanted to talk about something about mental health. Because we've had this lockdown for about, 3 months now?
3 months and counting.
Yes. And then I think for a lot of the people, this has been a pressing issue. So this is still about health, just not the fitness-related health. Yeah. Now we'll focus on something a little bit.
This is something holistic from our end. Okay, yes. It's not enough that you're physically fit. Yes. Of course, it's a continuum, yes. Right? So there are several factors we have to consider. So right now, I would go as far as saying that a lot of us are going through something, and I believe it's very important for us to understand what's really going on with us. So to keep the ball rolling, first question. Sir James, we prepared several questions. The first question is from a clinical definition, what is a mental health disorder? Kasi currently a lot of people are saying I have a mental health disorder. I know someone who has a mental health disorder. Ano ba talaga 'yon, Sir James?
Yes. Okay, so let's probably define first what mental health is, So, It's good that for Kinetics Lab, for Polarity also, we are very much concerned about physical health. And that's one aspect of a person. And physical health is very much integrated with what we call mental health, As much as we cannot say that one person is 100% physically healthy, because there'll be times wherein, sometimes we feel weak, we get tired, Mental health is similar to that. It speaks of the well-being of a person. And we cannot say that one person is 100% mentally healthy. So because we are subjected also to a lot of things from outside us. So
that's a good point.
A simple definition of mental health is a person's wellness and his ability to be able to cope with normal difficulties or stresses in one's daily living. And also, part of mental health is also to be able to know one's self, one's strength, and to be able to actualize those things that we could actually grow in, and then and this is from a definition from World Health Organization in 2004. And then at the same time, to be able to work productively and fruitfully, that's part of wellness, mental health,
Nice.
wellness, and also to be able to contribute to one's community. Although this definition of World Health Organization is still 2004, a lot of researchers have been trying to elaborate more. So in a way, they don't totally agree with it, but I mean the main essence is there. They try to expand more on that meaning that even if we're mentally healthy, it doesn't mean that we don't feel sad, you don't feel anger. So these are normal emotions also that we feel, and we can still be very much healthy experiencing those, because definitely we'll experience those. But what makes the difference is that we're able to cope with those difficulties. Just like physical strength, if something is difficult or if you're sick, then we try to recover from that sickness. That's essentially what mental health is. And of course, a disorder is if there's something wrong with those, like when we get sick physically, mental health disorder also is, it has something to do with the way we think, our emotions, the way we feel, and also our behavior. So if there's some sort of something wrong with the way we think, if it's not any more normal, or the way we feel, it does not connect with what's happening, or a combination of this, our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior, then that could be considered as a mental health disorder. And there's actually guidelines, especially for professionals, for practitioners. There are several, I would say, guidelines books. One of them is Diagnostics and Statistical Manual. They call it this M5. It's already its fifth version. And there are guidelines there that are used by professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, that can help diagnose a patient. But this one is used by trained professionals, and not everyone should diagnose themselves. That's also one thing that I would emphasize at the beginning of this podcast, that we refrain from self-diagnosing, because it's
we'll get into that later on.
Okay, sige, I'm jumping the boat. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Sir James, given that we've defined what mental health is and what a mental health disorder is, pre-COVID, what are the three most prevalent mental health disorders that you're familiar with?
Okay. Well, at least here in the Philippines, the most prevalent would be what they call clinical depression. Or major depressive syndrome. That's around 17% of the population, is around 17 million. And then following that also, it's really a lot. And the next is we have schizophrenia. It's a mental disorder that finds, the reality is not, does not jive with one's perception. So the one's perception of reality is distorted. That's schizophrenia. That's 1% of the population, is around 1 million. And another 1 million for bipolar disorder. So these are the more common ones. The data that I had is from 2015, 2013, 2015 references. So it's a lot. The thing is, there are a lot of people who are actually undiagnosed. So there could actually be more people who are suffering from these mental diseases.
So parang COVID lang.
Kulang sa testing, Sir James.
There are a lot more undiagnosed.
Yeah, kulang sa testing.
Given the stats that Sir James said, it's quite staggering, diba? For me, I'm quite surprised na ganun pala karami yung affected nito.
Yes.
Now we go into the pandemic. So,
Sir James, has the pandemic actually contributed in any way in the
rise or fall ng mga mental health disorders na to? Do we have data right now?
Yeah. Well, I don't have exact numbers, but there's data that indicate that there is really an increase in people seeking out mental health practitioners. Even in my practice right now, in fact, I have to stop my dissertation writing to help some people inside where I'm working and even outside to help people, because there's a rise of people struggling with fear, with anxiety, with depression, with a lot of fear. I think I've mentioned that. And given our situation, that's what we were given. If we isolate ourselves, we're subjected to a stressor that we have not foreseen, it we have not probably prepared for. And everyone is actually trying to see, okay, what's the best way to cope with this situation. And there had been a lot of suggestions on how we can cope, but maybe I'll get to that later. But regarding your question, definitely there is an increase of people seeking out mental health practitioners or help in terms of their mental well-being.
I'm just quite curious. Through what medium sila, given the limitations that are presented right now, through what medium are they able to consult professionals like you? Through ganito?
Yes. Well, for my case, we try to do all sorts of medium. Okay. We can do Zoom, or we have Facebook, even through text, FB Messenger, or through text, or through email. So it varies. That's the thing. It's also difficult for us, for the mental health practitioners, because it's not like you speak to them in person and you can actually feel the person. It's easier to empathize a person if he's there. But if there's like a technology that somehow separates you from, of course, it's helpful if I get to see. But in some cases, they'd rather just text. And then I have to wait for them and they don't reply immediately. So that's also one of the difficulties, that the profession, the situation has given us. But we try to do our best. We try to do our best, especially for crucial cases. We call them by phone, and that's the best way also that we can reach out to them. So it's more difficult now, I would say, but that's the best way that we can do at the moment.
Kesa sa wala, Sir James, correct?
You mentioned during lockdown that there are more people who are experiencing mental health disorder. So what do you think, any certain lifestyle changes that we are going through now?
Okay. That's very true. There's a change in lifestyle because we're not used to staying inside our house. We know that, we go out, we meet people, we interact with people, but now we're locked up, we're cooped up inside. But I think more than that, what threatens our mental health are certain uncertainties. We don't know, for example, for some people, they don't know if they have a secure job, but, tomorrow, next week, next month, if they'll still keep their job. They're also afraid that, what will happen to me, to my loved ones, will be infected by the disease. How will my kids learn, for example, or how am I supposed to reach out to, let's say, a loved one who's out there, or we have relatives of, people who are sick or, diagnosed with COVID or other diseases, we can get in touch with them, So there are a lot of things here that contribute to that. And especially people who are working from home, there's no direct delineation between work and home.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes, we all agree to that.
Yes, definitely. Working from home, it has a lot of difficulties because you're focused for work, and then suddenly it's probably a child or a parent.
On paper, it actually sounds nice.
Comes in, and of course, they're there and should be prioritized them, And then sometimes, since probably we're working, we're given late night assignments, thinking that probably we can do the following day. There are a lot of things there, especially with working from home. It's not convenient. I would like to quote she was my professor, Dr. Tuazon, from UP College of Social Science and Philosophy, from Department of Psychology. She was mentioning that for those who are working from home, maybe allot 3 to 4 hours of focused work. And then maybe the rest of the day, try to see what kind of work could be done, such that it's impossible to really focus on your work for 8 hours straight at home. So that's really impossible, so she was saying. And then the concerns there also involve people, probably my age, those in their 40s, 30s, 40s who have kids, for example, they have to take care of their family, and then they have also aging parents. So they are somehow in a sandwich generation. They have to take care of their old aging parents at the same time they have to take care of their kids. So that in itself also brought a lot of stress also. So of course the younger ones, teenagers also, they're also prone to a lot of anxiety, fear, because of their developing brain also, and because they're teenagers. That's also a crucial part of their growing up. And of course, kids are very susceptible also to, although they're more resilient, I would say, the younger ones.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, they can recover better. The younger ones, even physically, for example, diba? So if let's say, diba, they can recover as long as let's say the trauma isn't so heavy. Okay, so of course there could be traumas or events that happen in the child's life that could actually destroy in a way, but of course there's still a way to help them out. But just like also, let's say, in a physical disease, but kids, they can actually spring up. I mean, they can recover easily. They can cope better. I mean, if they're also guided well,
So pagdating sa work from home setup, hindi siya, to throw some shade, na hindi masarap dahil laging ganito.
Yeah, people think that work from home is a good thing.
There are some people na masaya sila diba? Sana ganito na lang daw lagi.
Parang perception na lang siya. Kasi it gives you the impression na you can do whatever you want while you're working. Pero it doesn't really, after quite some time, it doesn't really work that way. Okay, so moving forward, Sir James, my next question for you is
that right now that we've established that there really is a rise in the case of mental health disorders.
So what are the signs and symptoms that we can look into for us to be able to distinguish baka nagde-develop na to ng mental health disorder, baka kailangan natin ng professional help?
Yes, I'm curious about that too.
Not siguro po to diagnose, but more of parang to watch out lang for these things. Kasi as you said nga, these things should be
done by
non-professionals, and that diagnosing yourself is actually more, baka it may do more harm than good if we try to self-diagnose. So things to look out for.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm happy that people your generation now are more open to mental health conditions, because I guess from my generation and the older generation, still
it's another issue
for a lot of cases, especially parents. They find it difficult. No, it's just something that you can, during our time,
Arte lang yan.
Actually, if you may, Sir James, for my opinion lang, on my own, para siyang tabu damn if you do, damn if you don't. Pag hindi mo sinabi, tapos when it becomes too late, ba't di mo sinabi? When you say it naman, and ask for help, sasabihin ng mga tao, wala yan, tiisin mo lang yan. Or, ma-ostracize ka, sasabihin nila, baliw ka. So, ayun.
Yes, actually that's a bit unfortunate. If that's the case, parang sabi mo, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Well, for example, for some cases, maybe if we let's say want to look out for our loved ones, if should I refer this person to professional or not, one probably rule of thumb that I can give is if the person is not productive anymore in spite of trying some interventions. If it needs especially medical help, meaning that there's already something wrong with the chemicals in the body, that there's a need for chemical intervention, then we need to bring the person to a psychiatrist, that's a medical doctor. In terms of behavior, the person finds it difficult to rule over oneself in terms of behavior, that you might need to seek out a psychologist. But in a lot of cases, we need the combination of both, and that's the best treatment plan, to have a psychologist to give us a therapy, and at the same time medication to help us in terms of regulating certain chemicals in the body. But for us, for example, since we're not trained, one thing that we can look out for are certain behaviors that have changed. For example, if a person suddenly ceases to enjoy what the person would usually enjoy, like playing video games, and suddenly the person doesn't enjoy playing video games for a period of time, for example. And then if it gets into the way of a person's normal functioning, such that it damages relationship with other people, or that the person probably his behavior was that before he was very sociable, now he doesn't want to mix with other people, doesn't want to talk. And probably also when persons, let's say, oversleep or finds it difficult to sleep, or probably a person wakes up in the middle of the night because of a bad dream that has happened, that because of something that happened, let's say, during the day. Those are things that we can check on. Because in some cases, for example, let me just recall, a person feels tired and a person doesn't seem to figure out, why am I feeling this way? Okay, that's also one of the things. And what we try to do is from our end, from our end, the guidance counselors, because I'm a counselor, what we try to do is, let's look for certain interventions that might probably work, and we look into how's your sleep pattern? Are you able to get enough sleep? Because there's this psychiatrist from Harvard. I was listening to his YouTube channel, that in a certain case, he was able to help a woman who's clinically diagnosed with depression by regulating her sleep, trying to have a regular pattern of sleep. So because there's a lot of research on sleep, and what sleep does is that it actually cleanses the body with a lot of toxins. That's why the right amount of sleep. So when you say the right amount, that's around 2 to 3 sleep cycles in a night. The same psychiatrist also mentioned that if we oversleep, it's actually more harmful. So if we go through a 4th cycle, meaning if we sleep for 9 hours probably, or 10 hours, that could be bad for our health. But well, some people naman, they claim that they can afford with just 6 hours of sleep, and that's okay if they feel okay with that.
Actually, what's important, excuse me, Sir James, this is quite parallel with physical fitness. Okay, there are several studies establishing that the probability of an athlete being injured has a correlation with the amount of sleep they get. So there's an ideal range, then there's the dangerous range. So in summary, the less sleep you have, the probability of you getting injured gets higher. And the more optimal your sleep pattern is, or the length of your sleep, the more optimal your performance will be.
This has something to do with recovery.
Yeah.
Correct, coach?
Okay. So you see, sleep solves a lot of problems. That's one.
Yes.
You know? So
yes.
But that one really involves a lot of discipline, because if you're used to sleeping late, and it takes really some time to have that habit, because it's breaking habits and forming new habits. But that's really very crucial, very important. You know, when we're able to
add lang, sir, excuse. I think this is one of the problems ngayon, because I think a lot of people have broken sleep patterns due to the quarantine. Some people may oversleep or like completely reverse their sleep patterns, like they sleep in the morning and like be up in the night. Or some people, those who work from home, maybe they lack even more sleep because they have more workload since they're working from home. And then I guess maybe that contributes to the increase in problems with the mental health during this time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Maybe it's also because we don't give too much importance to sleep, and then probably we can afford, not to sleep well. The thing with sleep is that if we, let's say, lack sleep, let's say tonight, the following day, we don't feel the effect of that lack of sleep, but actually we feel the effect the day after that, because somehow our body still copes. And that's also one thing. We probably think that I'll just recover, I'll just sleep, let's say, for 10 hours after that, but that's not how to recover sleep. To be able to recover sleep is we have
guilty.
You have to sleep the right amount for, let's say, a week or so to be able to catch up. It's not trying to catch up. If let's say we lost 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, I'll sleep for 10 hours, and that's not the way to regain sleep. Lost sleep is lost sleep. That's how it was, let go of it,
Okay.
and then try to have regular sleeping patterns. Yeah, because again, oversleeping is actually not good for the body. So
Okay.
and yeah, and then maybe another thing that I can suggest to help us is, well, this one is getting sunlight during the day, because that one boosts our immune system. At the same time, it helps us sleep at night. If we're able to get
Yes.
sunlight during the day, of course, early morning sun is good. Maybe late morning might not be good for our skin, so that's important. And the next one is something that I really try to do during the quarantine, which is to exercise.
Yes.
Patrick has been teasing me about
Of
going
course.
to the gym one of these days, Yeah, because, when we exercise, oxytocins are also secreted in the body. It goes around the body, that feel-good hormone. It's important, And also, if we are physically healthy, we can also think well. I remember the suggestion when I was taking the comprehensive exam. My one of the professors said that, do a little bit of exercise before taking the exam so that blood starts flowing in our brain, So do a little bit of exercise before taking the exam. So it's also good, for the body. And at the same
That's
time,
nice.
because exercise also is very good for our mental health. Let me just emphasize that. It is one of the things that I suggest to people, other than sleep, exercise, and then diet. So these are the most basic things. And sometimes just with these things, people are helped. They're able to recover just to take care of this. Now, an excuse that we can give is that, we have to take care of ourselves. I think that's the reason why we should be taking our sleep seriously, why we should be taking our exercise seriously. It's for us not to be able to take care of ourselves. That one also shields us from stressors in the future, because,
Yes.
there might be a time of the year wherein, like recently, I gave a talk to some employees because it's tax season, so they're very stressed. So I gave a talk via Zoom as well,
Nice.
and
That's nice.
I'm very thankful because it's the time of the year where they're very stressful. So if we are actually able to keep ourselves healthy before that, then we are able to take in these stressors better. We're better prepared in a way. So just like, for example, physical health, if there are like viruses there, our body is able to protect us from those viruses. We might feel a little bit something, but at least we're prepared. We're more ready to fight. So that's also the same is also true with when we do take care of ourselves, when we sleep well, when we do exercise, when we have good diet. That helps protect us from mental health disorders also, I would say. Although I would say that there are some people who are more predisposed to mental health disorders than others, but we can mitigate
brings
those.
me to the next question, Sir James.
Yes.
Is there a specific demographic that is actually more at risk of developing these conditions?
Well, yes, there are some people who are more predisposed. Genetics play a part, but it's not the end all. We can, having healthy lifestyle, and also certain events that happen in our life are sometimes unpredictable.
Yes.
They could
Just
also
like what's happening
trigger, Yeah. And that's why, some people are more prone than others, but it's good to take care of ourselves, just like health also, di ba, parang we're predisposed to, let's say, what do you call this, a certain disease, for example, cancer. So of course, we try to live a healthy lifestyle so that we don't, get prone to, getting cancer or diabetes, for example. The same is true with mental health also, because there's proof that it's genetic also. But, we're not destined naman. It's like not our destiny. We can do something about it. That's why having a healthy lifestyle in that sense, is also good. Now, let me just also mention that during this pandemic, those who have pre-existing disorders are also more prone to stress also nowadays. So if they have pre-existing disorders, then they might be suffering more now. Okay, but of course, like all of us, I think all of us are experiencing certain things, but what's important is that, okay, we react to that. React. What do I do when I'm feeling this way? That's what's important. And maybe what's helpful also is to talk to someone. That's one thing that's very helpful. in my years of as a counselor, there are several times when a person comes to me and talks to me, I don't say anything, and I just listen to the person. And after talking, the person says, "Sir, thank you very much. I feel better." Even if you have not said anything, I was just there listening. Yeah, and he already feels good about it. And then I would ask the questions after that. So to be able to talk to someone about it, of course, it's not just a matter of talk. You cannot talk to the wall. Maybe probably it will help you, but you have to talk to someone whom you trust, who will listen to you, whom listen. So that's part of it, the relationship. So if you have someone you can talk with, and that it's good, to talk about it.
For
and
example,
that's also
sir,
one way, yes.
Excuse me. For example, sir, I have a family member or a loved one who has been diagnosed with a mental health disorder, and that person specifically picks me. Let's say, Marlon, can I talk to you? What is the proper way to respond to it?
Okay. It depends on you if you're willing to listen to the person, because sometimes it could be heavy.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're not ready, explain to the person, okay, I think I would like to listen, but I'm not sure if I can help you. But if you just want me to listen and you talk, okay, then just talk. Allow the person to talk. Tip. But there's a way for you that you should protect yourself, because some people, they feel so involved. So that's why I try to help them, like counselors or even the helping professionals. We have to be cold and warm at the same time. We should not be involved such that it gets into the way of our role as a counselor. So if you feel too bad about what the other person's saying, it affects the way I think. I won't be able to think clearly. Okay, so I have to be a bit detached, but at the same time, I should be warm enough such that the person will really want to talk. And then, of course, there's that genuine concern. But at the same time, I have to protect myself. I won't be able to be an effective counselor if I allow my emotions to be too involved.
Nice. Okay?
So
that's a nice
important. Tip. So, So if you want to help someone, then okay, if we could, then we try to listen to the person. And then if the person is seeing a professional, if the person is diagnosed, most likely the person is seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist. And then keep in mind that when people suffer, this is also what I do because students also ask me for suggestions because they have friends who open up to them and they find it difficult. And I tell them that, when people are suffering, keep in mind that those sufferings are opportunities for them to grow and to improve. What do I mean by that?
Perfect.
When people, let's say, encounter, let's say, a fight with, let's say, their girlfriend, what happens is, okay, it's unfortunate, but what can you learn from that? Dapat you're more sensitive, dapat you don't, there are a lot of things there. So we try to draw out what can you learn from that event, from that unfortunate event, kasi nangyari na yun. So that's one of the things that we can focus on. Now, the good thing about that is that instead of focusing, thinking about ourselves, that makes us proactive. What can I do? So it moves us to action. And that's actually mentally healthy because we don't ruminate on the events, what happens that we're thinking about an action plan. What can I do? So those things, rumination, negative self-talk, these are certain things that actually happen in the mind that causes us a lot of stress also. So that's another thing, ruminations, negative self-talk. These are things that we tell ourselves that causes us to feel stress. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for my parents. I'm such a bad brother or something like that. Sometimes we tell those things to ourselves, and that's not really mentally healthy because we feel bad after that. In that sense,
Nice.
So those are the things. Yeah.
It's when people have too much assumptions about external factors. Like they just assume that they're a bad son or a bad father without actually communicating with the other people.
Yes. So you've mentioned about external factors and they happen, and I think we can focus on internal factors, so where we have control over what we can control, those things,
So, for me, what I can deduce from what Sir James has been talking about is, I'm gonna relate it with what's happening right now.
Kasi the COVID-19 pandemic has actually taken away control.
Yes.
Parang, the way I see it, parang we've lost control of our livelihood. We've lost control of how we socialize and who we can socialize to. We've lost control of our routine. So, I guess for a lot of people, that became overwhelming.
Yes.
Ngayon, siguro yun rin naging reason kung bakit mas naging prevalent yung mga mental health disorder.
Yes,
going back to that, given the limitations of the pandemic right now, Sir James, maybe you can give us your maybe 1 or 2 top tips that we can practice para less yung probability na mag-develop kami ng whatever mental health disorder. Mga 1 or 2 top tips.
Okay. Well, one is to take care of ourselves. That's one. When you say take care of ourselves, let's try to see, look into our interests. What would we want to do? That includes sleeping, living a healthy lifestyle, doing exercise, trying out things. Not to abuse ourselves. That's one thing we have to take care of ourselves. This is a good opportunity for us to probably look into what do I want to do, because I heard some people they have wanted to, let's say, build a model of, let's say, Millennium Falcon, for example.
Yes.
They have been wanting to do that, and probably now is the best time to do that, So because that one, making models also is something that engages us. It puts us into flow, and that's one of the things that the flow theory by Csikszentmihalyi is also one of the things that will help us become healthy, mentally healthy, or part of wellness. So if there's something that you really want to do before, like play a guitar or try gardening or cooking, you can try to explore it now. So one is, again, taking care of ourselves. The next one is taking care of others.
Nice.
Because we know that other people also have their own struggles, and actually altruism, helping others, is actually good for us mentally also, for our wellness. So to be able to help others is good for us. So that's also important, taking care of ourselves and taking care of the others, and trying to be understanding also that others also have their own struggles, even if we have our own struggles also, and that could be a source of conflict at times, But trying to understand where the other person's coming from will help us to be more cautious, in dealing with the others. So probably those 2 things: take care of ourselves and then take care of others. But can I just add something?
Yes,
because earlier you mentioned something about control.
Yeah.
That's why one of the suggestions we can do right now is to put some structure into our daily activities. So to put a schedule, to make a to-do list that somehow puts structure and order, and we have control over that. So that gives us some sort of control.
Yes.
So that's why it's good that we schedule things, we structure things to help us also. Given that the pandemic COVID-19 has taken away that some sort of control from us. So let me just add that. Okay.
Maybe something as simple as making your bread in the morning. You can take control of your life. No, for real.
Right.
Kasi when you take control of the first thing in the morning, I think it sets the tone for the whole day.
That's right.
Yeah.
If it's part of your routine, I guess it will keep the ball rolling throughout the day.
Yeah, to have a routine. Yeah. And in some cases, someone was.
I think a lot of people lost the routine. Due to the pandemic, people just staying at home. Kung ano-ano na lang ginagawa. A lot of people just sit down, watch Netflix. At least for the people who can stay at home.
Yeah.
Nawala yung talagang daily routine nila. So I guess that's a very good tip. You can to get you back on track.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, if you're into Netflix also, you can ask her to schedule that as well. But it should not be too much, because person might end up binging and waste a lot of time. You can just schedule 1 episode per day. So that's part of the structure, part of the control.
Hindi ka realistic yun, sir. Parang walang gumagawa ng 1 episode na nila.
I think people listening here right now, in this moment, they're gonna turn it off.
Hindi kaya 1 episode.
No, I can't.
Anyways, do you have more questions, Luis? Luis G?
For me, wala naman. Gusto ko lang emphasize actually, sobrang gusto ko yung sabi sir about
Galing.
about sleep, lalo na about sleep. Kasi a lot of people overlook that eh. Both mentally pala and physically, you have effects of sleep that we see, both positive and negative. And in any sense of recovery, sleep is a crucial factor. Well, actually, with my patients, or rehab patients, that's something I ask that in these days. Are you sleeping well? Because if you're not sleeping well, how can you recover properly? So, diba, pati pala sa mental health, ganun din.
Ako, actually, this episode is quite special for me because I have several friends na diagnosed to have a mental health disorder. And for the longest time, it's been difficult to really understand what's going on inside their head. So instead of trying to understand them, so I'm leaning towards my own inclination with regards to what a person who has a mental disorder has to, what they call this, tell us. Parang ang gusto ko sabihin is ang hirap sumasandal ako sa pagkakaintindi ko, hindi sa condition nila. So this session has been quite enlightening for me. By the way, Sir James, I've encountered people na, especially in the line na trabaho ko ngayon right now, namin actually, we experience several times na yung clients namin have mental health disorders. These are diagnosed na. Most common na experience namin are people with anxiety disorders and depression. Ngayon, would you care to explain to us what really happens dito sa mga tao na to? Short lang.
Why do they have anxiety?
Yeah.
One is probably they're predisposed and something happened in their lives that they weren't able to cope with well. So that's one thing.
So that's a traumatic event.
It could be a traumatic event, or it could be something that snowballed, I would say. There's a certain event that hit them hard, and then it spiraled down. Okay, but there are also certain things that it's really difficult to explain why. There could be cases that because it's chemical also. There's something wrong with the body. Again, probably it's genetic.
Yeah,
that's one. And actually, it's really difficult to figure out why. What definitely caused these things. And I think it's still unknown. But there are a lot of factors. Definitely, there are a lot of factors playing there. It could be an environment. It could be disposition or an event that happened in one's life. So it could also be biological. Certain damages in the brain, for example, or some organs in the body that could also it's also possible that those could contribute to one's mental diseases or mental diseases. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Luis A? Do you have a question or would you like to share anything?
Actually, I have a question. We touched upon it a while ago, but is mental health, does it affect us differently depending on our age?
I think it does. As we
we can sort of explain it with physiology within men. Kasi the more you age, parang the lower your testosterone gets, the more you get into depression or something like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the cause, but there's data that women are more prone to mental sicknesses than men. But I'm not sure if the cause is that. It could be, but I'm not sure if it's already established. But there are certain predispositions or age, and we could say also, let's say teenagers, when their brain is not fully developed. Well, the brain develops at least the prefrontal cortex by age 25. That's very important for teenagers because that's where the executive functions are found. So that self-control, to be able to plan things. These are not yet found with teenagers. And also that's a time when they have a lot of, trying to, seeking their self-identity vis-a-vis their peers, So, and that causes a lot of anxiety also for them and fear. That's why at that age also, people are more prone to mental disorders. And in fact, there's an age range where, let's say, certain diseases arise, I think, until age 32. I forget now the data. From 24 to age 32, that's when certain mental disorders would come out, So there are data like that, So certain age levels, but I don't have the data right now.
Quarter life crisis.
So that could explain it.
Quarter like 24 to 30. Tapos na pala ako. Tagal na.
Oh, well, of course, yeah. But we still have to be careful because, we don't know what's going to happen. But the important thing is we take care of ourselves,
Okay.
Good
So we don't have any further questions. So
As a final word from you, Sir James, any final words for our listeners?
Well, thank you for listening, and I hope that
Thank you.
get some things from this. And let's all keep ourselves healthy. We it's not just important that we keep ourselves, but the body is very integral. So that's why if we keep ourselves physically healthy, it affects also our mental health. And of course, if we take care of our mental health also, we can take care of our body as well. Thinking clearly will enable us to do things well. So and then maybe one other thing. This is probably something that we can do is that I mentioned earlier about helping others, and that's something that that is good. We in a lot of events that happen, when there are tragedies that happen, like Ondoy or Yolanda, we see the resilience of the Filipino, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, now it's different because this one is more prolonged and it's a bit difficult. So that disposition to be happy, let's try to do that. If we can also be cheerful, try to lighten things up for the others, then let's try to do that. But not to the point of not being serious or not giving importance to things, but taking things lightly without any serious consequences would be good. To try to be to take things in stride also, and then try to move into action. What can we get from these things, and maybe this will be the last thing I'll say. When I do my counseling also, especially if people will tell me about negative events that happen in their life, I'll tell them, okay, these things have happened and we cannot anymore turn back time and undo it. But since this has happened, maybe we can extract good things from it. What can we learn from this event? That can make us better. And then maybe that's one thing that I would want to leave with your listeners right now. So, yeah. What can we get? What can we extract? Sabi nga nila, if life brings you lemon, make lemonades. In that sense.
Yes, that's perfect. That makes sense. Okay, so any final words from you guys? Ako, I'm good.
No, good. Very enlightening to session na to.
Yes. Very enlightening and timely.
Very timely, yeah. That's true, Coach Mario.
Luis A.
Yeah, I think I'm good. It's
Luis
very
G.
informative.
Alright,
Okay.
so
that's it for us.
Yeah, that's it for our episode for today. So I think now we'll actually start having more episodes kasi we've got our equipment back, makapag-record na ulit kami.
I have a feeling that we're gonna have a part 2 of this with Sir James.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
On a different topic, maybe still about health and fitness. So yeah. Thank you very much, Sir James.
Thank you, Sir James.
This has been a very educational talk
Yes.
from you. Ang dami naming natutunan. For sure, ma-apply namin yan with our own practices.
Yes.
So, alright. So, again, guys, please do check this out. This podcast will be up on Spotify. So, it's Strength and Movement Podcast. Please follow us on Spotify. Video will also be uploaded on YouTube under Kinetics Lab Media. Please like and subscribe to the page. And that's about it. We'll see everyone in the next episode.
Stay safe, Sir James. Thank you
safe,
again.
Everyone. Also,
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir James.
Sir James.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Sir James.
Thank you. Okay.